And she like, what baby? What baby is you talking about? Because we ain't got no baby. We ain't got no fresh babies. Hey y'all, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Janae, if you didn't know, and today's video is another true crime episode. So if you're ready, let's go. Alright y'all, so look what I did. I finally did my nails, but I didn't do nothing extravagant. I wanted something that was super cute, super simple. That's usually the look I've been going for lately. And I was going to keep it at the nude, like the little nude underneath, the nude base. But I decided to add a little sprinkle dinkle, so that's what we have. Now moving on to the playlist chat. Some of y'all commented some of y'all suggestions on what I should call the playlist. And y'all be thinking, y'all be using y'all noggin, and I love that. Some of them suggestions were like top tier. So now I just got to choose. Because somebody said criminal state of mind. Somebody said the state of it all, and it was a couple more that was really good, and I was like, ooh, we like. So it'll probably be some variation of that, and I'll be putting the playlist up, I want to say sometime this week. Yeah. But yeah, that's all the chit chat I think I have before we start the case. And as you all know, we are going from the beginning to the end of America in alphabetical order. So from Alabama to Wyoming, and today we are in Colorado. And today we're going to be following two separate families, the women of those families more specifically. So we're going to start with a woman named Kora Abbott. And at the time this case takes place, Kora is a 27-year-old mom of at least one child named Brittany or Brandy. I've seen both. And to be fair, one or none of them could be that child's real name, right? I don't know. Or the off chance she could have just had two children, one named Brittany, one named Brandy. I really don't know. But I know she had one child for sure. And Kora was working at a pizza parlor trying to make things work for her and her kids, being that she was no longer with her children's or her child's father. And eventually, being that she wasn't with the baby's daddy no more, Kora started dating again, and she started dating a man named James. Now this may or may not be this man's real name, but we gonna call him James because that's the name that I heard. And I also heard David, but that was in a movie, so we not gonna call him David, we gonna call him James. So Kora and James started dating, and they have been dating for a while when Kora gets pregnant. And James is supportive of Kora having this baby. And in January of 1988, the two will welcome a baby girl named Rachel Ann White. And once Kora had this baby, she couldn't be more happy. She absolutely adored this baby. And she loved seeing the bond forming between her older daughter and baby Rachel. But unfortunately, Kora had to get back to work because y'all know how America do. 6 weeks, that's all you getting, and then you got to take your ass back to work. And that 6 weeks is usually unpaid unless you got annual leave or sick leave. So, or in some cases, the 6 weeks is partial paid. And if you decide to take bonding time after that, it's unpaid unless you got sick or annual leave to cover it. But Kora didn't have all these extra benefits, and she didn't have money just stashed away to be able to take baby bonding time off. So she actually ended up having to go back to work when baby Rachel was just 4 weeks old. And while Kora was at work, her mom would be watching her children. But her mama had a life of her own, and she couldn't just always be watching the kids. So Kora decided that she was going to hire a babysitter. But in the interim, her mom was going to be watching the kids, but she was going to be looking for a babysitter in the meantime. And so she put an ad out in the newspaper for a babysitter for hire. And now we're going to take a little bit of a pause from Kora's story and move over to the second woman in today's story. And this woman's name is Marissa Rentz. And Marissa is a 37-year-old Cuban native who immigrated to the United States with her parents in 1968. She is also a 2-time divorcee and has 2 kids with her first husband. And at the time of this case, she is married to a man named Paul Rentz, who is an Air Force captain. Now, Marissa and Paul were married in 1986 in San Antonio, Texas, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. If I got the city wrong, I definitely got the state right. It was somewhere in Texas, but I do believe that it was in San Antonio. But shortly after the two of them got married, Paul will be stationed at an Air Force base in Colorado. So the family picked up and moved from Texas to Colorado. Now, it seems like the marriage was on the rocks from the beginning, with constant bickering, constant arguing. Just the two could not, they didn't mesh well. They had two completely separate personalities, and this wasn't one of those situations where opposites attract, because yeah, nah, it just wasn't working. And just 8 months after the two were married, so in November of 1986, the two separated. And by June of 1987, Paul had decided that since they had been separated for the past 7 months, why not just take the next step? And he ended up filing for divorce from Marissa. He was literally just over the marriage of it all. But as over the marriage as he wasn't too over it to still be doing the do with Marissa, because around the time that Paul decided to file for divorce, Marissa also found out that she was pregnant. So they had to have still been doing the do while they were separated, you know. So Paul didn't want to be married, but he still wanted them marriage benefits. And because Marissa was now pregnant, Paul decided to halt the divorce. Now, I really don't know if he just halted the divorce and was going to divorce her after she had the baby, or if he halted the divorce and was going to try to work through their relationship now that they were about to have a baby. But whatever the case was, Paul was with Marissa throughout her entire pregnancy. And in February of 1988, the two welcomed a baby girl named Aurora Helen. And it's at this point that Marissa and Kora's lives would intertwine, because on the same day that Marissa was bringing baby Aurora home, Kora was losing baby Rachel. So, like I told y'all before, Kora had put an ad in the newspaper for a babysitter position. And the date is February 19th, 1988. Kora has to go back to work, and her mom is watching her kids and interviewing potential babysitters for Kora. So during the interview process, one of the prospective babysitters comes by, whose name is Sharon Sanchez. So Kora's mom is conducting this interview, asking her all of the typical questions. Does she have children? Does she have experience with infants? How long has she been a caretaker for children? How many children has she taken care of at once? Like, you know, just doing the whole vetting process. And during this whole interviewing process with Sharon, the phone rings. And remember, y'all, this is 1988. So this is the era way before I don't want to say way before, but before cell phones. And usually there was only one house phone, which was situated on a wall in the kitchen. So yeah, phone rings and Kora's mom goes to answer it. But before she answers the phone, she hands baby Rachel to Sharon. And this is kind of like a test. Let me see how you handle the baby. Let me see how you interact with her. Let me see, you know, how you do for a couple minutes while I'm on the phone. So Kora's mom goes to the kitchen to answer the phone call. She's on a very brief call before returning back into the living room. But when she comes back to the living room, Sharon has dipped out with baby Rachel. So Kora's mom runs out the front door. But unfortunately, Sharon has already made it to her car and is peeling off. All Kora's mom saw was a silver sedan with Texas license plates that had mud all over it. So she couldn't even read the license plates because it was all smeared with mud. She immediately ran back in the house and called 911. And obviously she calls Kora too, but you know, police first. So detectives roll up to the house and they're getting as much information as possible from Kora's mom. And the description that her mom gives is that this was a Hispanic lady with black hair and red highlights. And that is a very vague description. So detectives really didn't have very much to go off of right at this point. But, you know, they're going to do their job and they're going to try to find this baby by any means necessary. So a search immediately gets underway for baby Rachel. But there's also detectives who are talking to Kora and her mom to try to get as much information as possible. And they asked Kora about the state of her relationship with Rachel's father. And initially, Kora like, what the fuck does that have to do with my baby? Go find my baby. Like, whether the daddy in the life or not, go find my child. But you know, the detectives are just doing their job. But Kora really don't give a damn because she wants them to locate her child. All this extra who here, who there, who did this and who did that, it's no nonsense to her. She want to find that baby, and that's really the only thing that's on her mind. But she cooperates with the detectives, and she does end up telling them that the father's name is James and that he was supportive of Kora having the baby, but he was a married man. And that perked up the detective's little antennas, because they like, okay, maybe this is a scorned wife type of situation. Maybe him and his wife has something to do with it, or maybe just his wife has something to do with it, or maybe he has something to do with it because he didn't want his wife to find out, type of thing, you know. And Kora also tells the detectives that James's wife found out about their affair and that the two decided to work it out, which is how Kora ended up in Colorado Springs, because previously when she started the affair with James, she lived in Canyon City, which is about an hour away from Colorado Springs. And in an effort to just get away from it all, Kora decided that she was just going to leave Canyon City and go to Colorado Springs. However, that did not stop the affair, because it was off for a little bit, but then James came crawling back, begging, yada yada yada, and Kora missed him too. So things sparked back up, and James would now start visiting Kora in Colorado Springs, and this is when Kora ended up getting pregnant. But Kora said she didn't know though if James's wife knew about the baby or not. She ain't know that much. So now the detectives are really thinking that maybe this is a scorned wife type situation. Like, she found out about the baby and was like, nah. You not about to be messing up my life. You're not about to be messing up my family. We can't have this baby out here just in these streets. And so the detectives thought this was like a scorned wife type of thing. So they go talk to James's wife. Turns out she had no clue about the baby until the baby got kidnapped. She said she just found out that morning because her husband was then forced to tell her that, yeah, you know, my baby got kidnapped. And she like, what baby? What baby is you talking about? Because we ain't got no baby. We ain't got no fresh babies. Maybe these 2 or 3 that we got right here, but we ain't got nothing fresh to be stolen. So that's how she found out about James having a baby with Kora. Just imagine, you think that your life is all good, you know, you and your husband working something out after he done cheated on you. The girl done moved an hour away. You know nothing about the affair continuing. And then you find out your husband got a baby because the baby got kidnapped? Like, ugh. So the fact that James's wife had just found out about the baby that morning, she definitely couldn't have been involved. Of course, they investigated it just to make sure she was telling the truth, but it turned out that she had nothing to do with baby Rachel's kidnapping. And so the investigation moved on. So as days go by, Kora is in the media hard. She's in the media hard trying to plead with the kidnapper to just appeal to anybody who may know anything to get her baby back. And tips are also coming in, and as y'all know, detectives have to investigate every single tip, but none of the tips that was coming in were panning out until I think it was day 4. So on this day, a tip came in that seemed way more promising than any of the other tips that had come in thus far. And this tip came in from a man named Bruce Yeager, who was an Air Force major. And what he told the detectives was that it was an Air Force tradition to go to an airman's house to welcome a new baby. Anytime an airman had a baby, it was customary for their major to go to the house and welcome the new baby. So he said he and his wife went to Captain Paul Rentz's home to welcome the new baby. And now this welcoming ceremony was completely unannounced. Paul didn't know they was coming, and neither did Marissa. And personally, don't pull up to my house without me knowing you coming, unless you like family, you know. In any event, they pull up to the Rentz's home unannounced to welcome the new baby, and they go in, and Marissa acting a little funny or whatever because the baby's asleep, but Major Bruce and his wife do get to see the baby even though she is sleeping. So they see the baby, they goo goo gaga over her or whatever, and then they leave. And once they leave, Bruce's wife is like, that ain't no newborn baby. That ain't no brand new baby. Because at this point, the baby would have been, I want to say 2 or 3 days old. But Bruce's wife said, that don't look like no brand new baby. You know, but whatever. And she didn't think nothing else of it until she got home and was watching the news and saw that there had been a baby that was kidnapped who was about 4 weeks old. And so she like, I don't know. So that's when Bruce called the police because his wife was like, I don't know. So the detectives pull up to the Rentz's home and they like, can we see your baby? And Marissa's like, no. She being a little dodgy or whatever because, again, the baby's sleeping. But detectives are like, okay, fine, the baby's sleeping. Do you got a birth certificate? Do you have a birth certificate? And she like, of course I got a birth certificate, which, by the way, I don't know how it works in any other state, but I've had 3 different children in 2 different states, and in each state I had to fill out the paperwork for a birth certificate, and I actually had to go down to the courthouse to pick up the birth certificates when it was ready in about a week. So I don't know how she said she had a birth certificate, but she said she had a birth certificate. Like I said, I don't know how it works in Colorado. Y'all let me know if you're from Colorado and got some kids. Do y'all get the birth certificate right away or not? In any event, Marissa says she had a birth certificate, and she presented it to the detectives, and detectives is like, this shit look fake. Just straight up, it looked fake. But nonetheless, she presented a birth certificate, and I'm wondering if she had a certificate of birth instead of a birth certificate, because you know when you have a baby, you get the certificate of birth, they fill out all the information, and it's just saying like, hey, you had a baby at this hospital, but it's not an official birth certificate, right? So I'm wondering if that's what she had. Nonetheless, they knew the birth certificate was fake, and they knew that Maritza's baby Aurora was baby Rachel, and that Marissa was Sharon, the one who answered the babysitter ad. And this was all further confirmed when detectives noticed that Marissa had a silver sedan that had Texas license plates that were muddied up. And also during the investigation, they found a newspaper that had Kora's ad circled. So they like, girl, you took this baby. And so on the 23rd of February, 4 days after she went, 4 days after she was kidnapped, baby Rachel was returned to her family safe and sound, and Marissa was arrested. Now, being that this baby was kidnapped, they also had to do an investigation on Paul, because, sir, how the hell you didn't know that your wife wasn't pregnant? You didn't touch her? You didn't see her naked? You didn't do the do with her? Because obviously y'all was doing the do while y'all was separated, so y'all didn't do the do while she was pregnant? And pregnant women are some of the horniest people I know. So, okay. And then furthermore, your wife called you on Friday like, hey, I just had the baby, we at home. Like, you didn't think that she would have spent a little bit more time at the hospital? At least a day. They at least gonna keep you overnight. If they let you go home the next day, okay, sure. But not the same day. They not letting you leave the same day. Maybe he was just ignorant to the fact of how childbirth goes. But yeah, men, if your wife call you while you at work and say, hey, I had the baby, I'm at home, she lying. Anyway, it was found that he had no culpability in the kidnapping, and he wasn't prosecuted in any way, shape, or form. But Marissa, on the other hand, she was charged with second-degree kidnapping and decided to plead guilty. And basically what she said was that she was pretty much trying to save her marriage. She was pregnant for real, but her pregnancy had to be medically terminated in October of 1987 due to complications. And she didn't tell nobody that her pregnancy had been terminated, and she just faked it the rest of the way through. And so she was scouring the newspaper for babies, and she called multiple people who were looking for babysitters. However, most of the children were too old. They were either 6 months, 8 months, toddlers, stuff like that. And when she came across Kora's ad, she was like, okay, this is perfect, bet. But when she got to the home, she was like, she got cold feet, she couldn't do it. But when the phone rang and Kora's mom stepped away, she said she felt like that was God telling her to take this baby, so she did. You just really can't disobey God's orders. He said take the baby, so she took her. And that's what Marissa said. Now, there has been a little bit of debate on whether Marissa was pregnant for real or not. I guess we'll never know. But whether she was or wasn't, she still stole a baby. And for this crime of second-degree kidnapping, Marissa did not serve any jail time. She was only sentenced to probation and 1 year in a psychiatric institution. And she was released from this psychiatric institution in 1989. And after her release from the psychiatric institution, Marissa was remarried, and she ended up working as a school counselor. And I just don't know if they don't do background checks. But how was she allowed to be a school counselor? Beats me. Nonetheless, she was also divorced again and then remarried again and ended up passing away in 2009. And that was the rest of Maritza's life. As far as baby Rachel, once she was returned home, she grew up in a steady, stable household, and she grew into a beautiful young lady who went to college. I think she became a psychotherapist, I believe, and she was married. I'm not sure if she's still married now, and I don't know if she has kids now, but at the time of the update, I don't believe she had kids. She had just went to college and was married. But it is said that she turned out to be just fine. And yeah, y'all, that is all I have for today's case. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this one in the comments, because why Maritza didn't do no jail time? Why she didn't serve more than a year in a psychiatric facility? Like, why was she able to become a school counselor after the fact? I don't understand. I mean, these are just questions that I have, and I'm pretty sure y'all got some questions too, because like, what the hell? Anyways, y'all, thank you all so very much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one when we are in Connecticut. Bye. Let's get to it. First things first. Back that ass up like Juvie. You really play so much. It's not even funny. Like, how are you an adult right now? You like a grown person. My friend went on a date. Now, moving along to the playlist chat. A couple of y'all... okay. And being that the... Kora was working at a pizza parlor. And she was also... oh, I didn't get a thumbnail. And this is... and it's at this point... and so in doing these interview processes... and Kora also tells the... and Kora ended... oh gosh.